Sam knew who was standing at her office door without looking. She called out without taking her eyes off the computer screen. "It better be important, Willow. I'm working on a big project." A slender young woman slipped into the office and stood patiently next to Samantha's desk until her boss deigned to look at her. After another minute, Sam pushed away from the keyboard and leaned back in the swivel chair in her luxurious office, her expression a mixture of impatience and love for her assistant. "She's like an extension of me," Sam thought, looking at the woman she had known since college. They lived in the same room back then and got along so well that after graduating from college, they continued to live in the same apartment. She would probably still be living with me if I hadn't found Mac. Sam met Mac McGraw 2 years after graduating from university and immediately decided that he would become her husband. Besides the fact that Mac was handsome and hard-working, everyone who knew him thought he was a truly good person. The young man did not immediately fall in love with the attractive and ambitious Samantha, and after he proposed to her, Sam left her longtime girlfriend and moved in with Mac. But Willow did not stand aside. They continued to hang out together so often that some of Mac's friends joked with him that he got 2 women for the price of 1. Sam and Willow remained close not only socially. When Sam got a promising job at a large public relations agency in New York, she immediately took Willow with her as an assistant. Her offer was not a charity. Willow was smart, diligent, and, most importantly, loyal to Sam, down to the last detail. As Sam moved up the organizational hierarchy, Willow moved along with her. Sam was smiling to herself now. There were those in the agency who disparagingly called Willow Sam's favorite. But Sam relied on her a lot, even if, from time to time, she abused her friend's loyalty. "Ooh, Sam?" Willow cleared her throat. "Oh, sorry, Willow. I was thinking about my project. What do you have for me?" Now her young assistant looked extremely worried. "Sorry, Sam. I just think you need to look at this." With these words, she handed Sam her smartphone and pointed to an icon unfamiliar to Sam. "What is this?" Willow shifted uncomfortably. "It's called eRendezvous. This is a new dating service that has recently received a lot of hype in the media." Sam raised her eyebrows. "What are you doing with the dating app? You never date anyone." "Well, that doesn't mean I wouldn't if the right guy came along." "So you've never used this app?" "I used it. I posted my profile there and looked at the profiles of the guys who responded, but I haven't met any of them yet." Seeing her boss's grin, Willow hurried to continue. "Actually, I think most of the guys here are married men, and I would never date any of them. And in general, some of them may be crazy. Haven't you read about all these women who have gone missing?" Sam shook her head amusedly. "You watch too many TV shows about true crimes." Then she shook her head knowingly. "Don't try to trick me, Willow. The real reason you don't want to date other guys is because you've had a crush on my husband ever since you met him." Willow blushed. "No, that's not true. And anyway, Mac doesn't show any interest in me. Don't be too sure about it. One day, when he was a little too drunk, he told me that if I hadn't fought him off, he would have tried to date you." Willow blushed again. "You're just teasing me, Sam. Mac never said that. And besides, even if it were true, I would never do anything to hurt you." Sam decided that she had tormented her friend long enough already. Pointing to the icon, she asked, "So why did you want me to look at this?" At this, Willow's face dropped. "Oh, Sam, I made a new contact today. I think you should take a look at it." Taking her smartphone back, she clicked on the icon and logged into iRendezvous. When it connected, she tapped the screen again and then handed the phone to Sam. Her friend saw the profile of a man who wanted to meet Willow. There was no photograph, only a short description, as well as some information about the man, his likes and dislikes. Sam glanced at the form and then looked at Willow, puzzled. "This doesn't tell me anything. Why would I date someone I can't even see?" "Well, that's the attraction. It's all a little mysterious, like a blind date, but you already know you're compatible, or at least, eRendezvous thinks you're compatible." The whole computer dating thing has become such a cliché that the element of surprise is what makes this new service appealing. Well, if you say so, then fine. But what's so special about this guy? Read the profile more carefully. Frowning her brows, Sam reread the profile. I still don't understand. It could be anyone. Look at his description, look at the college, look at the field he works in. Honestly, he sounds just like... Oh my God, he sounds like Mac. The description is similar to him. He went to the same college, and he works in the futures market. Just like Mac. Regrettably, Willow reached out and scrolled back to the top of the page. Look at his screen name. Sam winced. Mr. Nice Guy. That's what everyone calls Mac. Willow looked ready to cry. I'm sorry, Sam. I really am. I was so shocked when I saw it that I felt like I just had to show it to you. Sam looked at her friend with fury in her eyes. I won't stand for this. If Mac cheats on me, I have to take revenge on him. I know it looks suspicious, Sam, but I just can't believe Mac would cheat on you. He's crazy about you. I know it. Don't do anything irreversible, at least until you get more information. This could all just be one of those crazy coincidences. Sam took a deep breath to compose herself. You're right, Willow. I won't make any accusations until I know more. But I promise you that I will not ignore this. No one deceives me and gets away with it. Sam was still fuming when she returned home that evening, but she hid her emotions well from her husband. While they ate and rested after dinner, she listened carefully to see if there were any false notes in his conversation, but he seemed completely normal in all respects. Either he's innocent, or my Mr. Nice Guy is very level-headed. I thought I knew him so well, but now I'm not so sure. She decided that the first thing she should do was check his phone, but she couldn't figure out how to do it. Mac usually always kept his smartphone in his pocket. And even if she could get it, Sam knew that its screen was encrypted with a number she didn't know. She had been confused most of the evening, but the opportunity presented itself as they were getting ready for bed. He was brushing his teeth when he said to her, "What's the forecast for tomorrow? Will it rain?" Instantly, she knew what needed to be done. My phone is in my purse in the living room. Let me check yours. What's your code? He gave it to her, and she took his iPhone from the dresser. Looks like there's a 60% chance of rain, she called out to him, frantically scrolling through his apps. When she saw the familiar iRendezvous app, her heart began to pound. But before she could open it to check his activity, she heard him leave the bathroom. Hastily putting the phone on the nightstand, she turned off the lamp so that he wouldn't see how pale her face had turned. He soon fell asleep, and she lay awake for a long time, angrily tossing and turning. When Samantha walked into her office the next morning, Willow was already waiting for her. One look at the boss's face, and the girl rushed to hug her friend's shoulders. "Oh, Sam, I'm so sorry. Tell me what happened." After Sam revealed what she found, Willow was devastated. But then hope appeared in her eyes. Just because you found the app doesn't prove that he's cheating on you. I still can't believe Mac could be unfaithful. There must be some other explanation. I doubt it, Sam snapped. It looks too much like a coincidence. But I figured out how to catch him red-handed so that there would be no doubt. When Willow looked at her expectantly, Sam said triumphantly, "I'm gonna go catfishing." "What? What are you talking about?" "You know, catching catfish with live bait. That's what it's called when you create a fake online identity to hook someone. I'm going to join iRendezvous and create a personality that will surely attract Mac. If he takes the bait, as I think he will, I'll make an appointment, and when he shows up, he won't have the chance to lie. Wow, I think this will work, but it seems pretty mean." "Exactly. Now show me how to sign up for the service, and then give me some time to create a profile that is sure to attract him." An hour later, Sam called Willow into her office and handed her a piece of paper. "That's what I came up with. You know Mac well. Do you think he'll be attracted to this?" Willow glanced at the profile. "Miss Unforgettable? Is that what you call yourself?" Sam grinned wolfishly. If I catch Mac like this, I guarantee you he'll never forget what happens to him. Shaking her head, Willow looked back at the newspaper. Married, but not attached. Looking for adventure rather than relationships. She looked at her boss. You really have screwed up too much. I know. It's perfect. Hey, it says here that you are 24 years old. You are 34, like me. Sam shook her head at her assistant. Everyone lies in such cases. Besides, I still look at least 10 years younger. Well, if Mac is really looking for a no-strings-attached affair with his bored wife, this should appeal to him. She shook her head sadly, heading towards the door. I just hope that's not the case. Returning from lunch, Willow stopped at Samantha's office door. Well, did you do it? Do you have any bites? Sam rolled her eyes in disgust. Oh yes, I received a ton of responses. But they are all from creepy guys who I wouldn't touch even 3 meters away. There wasn't even a peep from Mr. Nice Guy. This is what you want, isn't it? Not if it doesn't bring me closer to solving Mac problems. But honestly, I'm starting to doubt this little scheme. But 3 hours later, Willow looked up to see Sam leaning against the wall of her office, a wide grin on her face. I caught him. Mr. Nice Guy just took my bait. We're going to meet tomorrow after work for a drink. Sadness mixed with worry clouded Willow's usually cheerful features. I still can't believe Mac would do something like that, she said, more to herself than to Sam. She then looked up at her boss. If it's really a Mac, will you be okay? Don't worry about me, girl. Worry about Mac. It is he who will suffer when he realizes that I know everything. When Sam drove home to their apartment that evening, she found it difficult to control her rapidly changing emotions. At first, she was happy that her catfishing expedition had ended successfully. However, her glee soon turned to nervousness at the thought of having to deal with Mac that evening. But the thought of him cheating on her fueled the fire of her anger, and she grimly told herself to be strong and act normal. I have to act normal for one more day. I can handle it. When she entered the apartment, Mac greeted her with a warm kiss. She smiled bravely and answered him, hiding her vengeful thoughts behind a facade of normality. Indeed, everything about their evening went well, but when they were getting ready for bed, she could not resist a little harassment. Oh, Mac, I forgot to mention that tomorrow I'll be a little late getting home. After work, I have a meeting with a client. Okay, baby, no problem. What about you? Do you have any plans? Nope, just everything the same and everything the same. She nodded, but when the light went out, she lay there cursing him for being able to lie so easily. The next morning, Willow was surprised to see her boss in an outfit more suitable for a nightclub than the office. The low neckline was so revealing that it seemed completely inappropriate to Willow for a business setting. In response to her assistant's raised eyebrows, Samantha laughed unpleasantly. I want Mac to take a good look at what he's going to be missing. As the day wore on, Willow became increasingly anxious about the upcoming confrontation. Just before leaving home, she stopped by Sam's office. Are you sure this is a good idea? Absolutely. I can't wait to see the look on Mac's face when he realizes he's been caught. Do you want me to go with you? For moral support? Sam laughed. No, I think I can handle this without you. A few minutes before 6:30, Sam walked into Massimo's, the lounge where she and Mr. Nice Guy had agreed to meet. The place was not crowded, and it took her only a short time to look around the room and determine that Mac had not yet arrived. She took a table near the back and ordered a Manhattan from the waitress to calm her nerves. She had almost finished her drink when a man's voice from behind startled her. You truly live up to your name. You are truly unforgettable. She turned around and saw a tall, slender man whom she had never met before. He had dark, almost black, curly hair, a well-shaped face, covered with a short, stylish beard. She stared at him silently. He is the most handsome man I have ever met in my life. Sorry if I scared you, the man said in his deep baritone voice. He pulled a chair over to the other side of her table and sat down just as the waitress returned. Do you drink Manhattan? He asked, and when she nodded, he said to the waitress, Pour it for the lady, and for me too. He raised one eyebrow and gave her an inquisitive smile. Suddenly she realized that she was still silent. "Oh, sorry," she apologized. "You're just not who I expected to see." Now his smile widened. "I feel the same. You are much more beautiful than I expected." She blushed and smiled gratefully at his compliment. While the waitress brought drinks, he began to have a pleasant, light conversation. He had a natural sense of humor, which quickly endeared her to him. "I have a confession to make," he said, leaning towards her. "I lied in my profile. In fact, I am 8 years older than I indicated. Seeing how young you are, I hope this doesn't put you off." "Oh no, not at all." "Actually, I like older men," she replied, choosing not to correct his misjudgment of her actual age. "I don't do this very often," he admitted a little later. "I recently got divorced and I'm just starting to return to social life. But enough about me. Tell me about yourself." With that, he began asking her about her life, and she found herself sharing more information than usual. As they chatted, he told her stories of his travels and humorous experiences, which fascinated and amused her. As she sat listening to that deep voice and looking at his face, a thought flashed through her mind. "This is similar to what it was like when I was single and dating." She immediately scolded herself for such inappropriate thoughts, but immediately burst out laughing at his next remark and forgot herself again. After a while, he gave her a seductive smile and asked, "There is a good restaurant nearby. Would you like to have dinner with me?" "God, what time is it?" She quickly glanced at her watch and was surprised to see how late it was already. "I would really like to," she told him, "but it's time for me to go home." She reluctantly stood up to leave, and he did so politely as well. He then reached across the table and lifted her left hand to look at the engagement ring. "Your husband is very lucky." He smiled. Having released her, he continued, "You know how to contact me. I would like nothing more than to see you again. But if this is not destined to happen, this evening will still be unforgettable for me." He then approached her, kissed her on the lips, and walked away, leaving her stunned and flushed. When Sam returned home, Mac was already waiting for her. "How was the meeting?" he asked. "Oh, great. Just business." Mac warmed up a plate of dinner for her, and while she ate, he sat with her and talked about his day. She seemed lost in thought to him, and he wondered if something had happened. But after they loaded the dishwasher, she suddenly hugged him and pulled him close. "Come on, husband," she gasped. "I need you to take me to bed now." Mac chuckled. "If washing dishes affects you like that, then we will have the cleanest dishes in town." With these words, he picked her up and carried her back to the bedroom, kissing her passionately as he went. Finding herself there, she took off her clothes before he could help her, and when he was too slow to take off his, she pounced on him and quickly finished the job. He began to kiss and caress her, but she shook her head impatiently. "No, don't." With these words, she pulled him towards her, and although he complied with energy and enthusiasm, she discovered that something was wrong. She usually enjoyed sex with Mac, but this time it seemed like everything he did was so familiar, so predictable. Afterwards, as he lay hugging her, she felt a surge of anger. "What the hell is wrong with me?" The next morning, Willow was waiting in Sam's office when she arrived. "So, what happened?" she asked anxiously. "Was it a Mac?" Sam shook her head. "No, Willow, it wasn't him." "Oh, thank God. I just knew he wouldn't do anything like that." Sam couldn't help but smile at Willow's obvious relief. When her pulse returned to normal, Willow tilted her head curiously. "So what happened? You must have been terribly embarrassed and ashamed." Sam's smile grew even wider now. "No, girl, it wasn't awkward at all. In fact, it was a delightful meeting." Willow's confusion was obvious. "So you didn't leave right away?" "No, I stayed there and had a couple of cocktails with him." "Why?" "Well, to be honest, he was the most handsome man I've ever met. Not only that, but he proved to be a fascinating conversationalist. He was witty and interesting, and I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation." "Is it true?" Oh yeah, I haven't had this much fun for a long time. Wait a minute, Sam, you tried to catch your husband cheating. You don't have to start anything yourself. Sam shook her head smugly. Of course not. I would never do anything like that. It was just one of those random events that worked out well for both of us. Nothing will happen. Well, I hope not. With that, Willow returned to her work area to finish her work. Sam started reading her email, but got distracted by thoughts of Mr. Nice Guy. Even as she resumed work on the advertising campaign she was developing, she continued to remember the details of their conversation and the way he laughed while telling one of his charming stories. Later, after a light lunch at her desk, she found it almost impossible to bring her mind back to work. I haven't felt this way in ages. After wasting almost the entire day, she finally made an impulsive decision. Picking up her smartphone, she used the iRendezvous program to send a note to her new friend. I'd really like to see you again. If you're still interested, meet me the day after tomorrow at noon for lunch at the Midtown Hotel Bar and Grill. After sending the message, she sat in silence, surprising herself. This doesn't sound like me. I don't do anything like that. But the thought of seeing him again increased her desire. She spent the rest of the day checking her phone every few minutes to see if he answered. But there was no answer, and she finally gave up and went home. When she got to their apartment, she felt sticky from the day and decided to change clothes and take a shower. Just as she slipped under the jets, Mac arrived and returned to their bedroom to change into his suit. At that moment, Sam's smartphone made a sound that Mac didn't recognize. It could have been some kind of customer emergency alert. I better check it out for her. But when he picked up her phone, he was shocked to see the iRendezvous app. Just a minute. It's that damn app that the guys at the office installed on my phone as a prank. Why the hell would Sam have it on her phone? A moment later, he was even more shocked when he read the reply from Mr. Nice Guy. I was hoping to see you again. Can't wait to meet you in Midtown. See you at noon. Is Sam really meeting some lover at the hotel on his lunch break? What is she up to and how long has this been going on? Hearing the sound of the shower turning off, he hurriedly put her phone back in its place. If I ask her about it, she will simply deny everything, and I will not know more than I know now. I need to wait until tomorrow and try to figure out what exactly is going on. Angry, he quickly finished changing and left the bedroom before Samantha came out of the bathroom. Walking out into the living room, she greeted Mac normally. But as they went about their evening activities, Mac noticed that there was some kind of liveliness in her behavior, and this only increased his suspicions. That night, it was he who lay in bed and suffered long after the lights went out. The next morning, Mac secretly kept track of what clothes his wife had chosen, but her choice did not arouse suspicion. Ordinary underwear and a Diane von Furstenberg dress that reached to the knees. He didn't notice that just before leaving for work, Sam slipped into the bedroom and put a set of Victoria's Secret bra and panties in her attaché case. Sam's morning at the office started out normal, but as the time approached midday, she became increasingly agitated. Willow noticed her nervousness and wondered what was bothering her boss. Finally, Sam took her attaché case and went to the ladies' room to change. Just as she was checking herself in the mirror, Willow walked in on her. Her eyes darted back and forth between the underwear Sam was wearing and her casual underwear lying on the sink. She screamed in horror. "What are you doing?" Sam frowned and quickly tied her dress. "Listen, Willow, you don't have to say anything about this to anyone. Now let me go. I have to go to a lunch meeting." Passing by her stunned friend, she patted her on the cheek. "Now remember, don't say a word to anyone." With these words, she headed towards the elevator. When she entered the lobby of the Midtown Hotel, Sam saw that her companion was already waiting for her. When he rose to greet her, she hurried to him and kissed him passionately. "Damn lunch," she whispered in his ear. "We both know why we are here. I have a room reserved upstairs. Are you interested?" He looked at her with hungry eyes. "Very." They quickly walked to the elevator and once inside, warmly embraced. "Since I met you, I can't think about anything else." She sighed as he pulled her close to him. Before the hotel room door could close behind them, Sam began tearing off her clothes. She deliberately chose a sheath dress so that she could untie it and show off her underwear effectively. But now she was so excited that as soon as she dropped her dress, she immediately started taking off her bra and panties. When her lover saw what she was doing, he began to tear off his clothes. Sam was delighted to see his lean, toned body. Soon they were lying in each other's arms. He then turned her over on her side and smiled at her. "You lived up to your name again. It was truly unforgettable. Do you have time to repeat it again?" She glanced at her wristwatch and hesitated, but then reluctantly shook her head. "As much as I want to, I need to take a quick shower and get back to my office." "I certainly understand." She slipped out of bed and hurried to the bathroom to shower. When the water temperature was perfect, she carefully put on the complimentary shower cap to protect her hair. When she stepped under the water, she felt a breath of cool air, and suddenly it was behind her. Taking the soap from her hands, he began to lather her while she leaned her back against his strong torso. She quickly jumped out of the shower, dried quickly, and then put on her clothes, not forgetting to put on her regular underwear. Finally, she hurried to him to kiss him again. "It was amazing, but I have to go." But before she could leave, he caught her hand. Looking into her eyes, he said intently, "I want to see you again. Very soon. And this time, I want to spend the whole night with you. You won't believe what I can do when I have more time." She nodded enthusiastically and then hurried out the door. As the taxi reached her office, she looked into the distance. Then she remembered his parting words, and the thought of a whole night with him sent a shiver of electricity running down her spine and right between her thighs. "Oh my God!" Returning to the office, she languidly sank into a chair, enjoying the memories and sensations of her body. When she looked up, Willow was looking at her in horror from the doorway. "You did it, didn't you? You look the same as you did after your date with Mac." She shook her head sadly. "I can't believe you're risking your marriage like that. If Mac found out, it would kill him." Sam looked away awkwardly, but then her expression returned to normal. "Listen, I'm dying of hunger. Be smart and run downstairs and get me a sandwich." She then turned to her computer to check her email. She didn't see how Willow tensed, and she didn't notice how she reluctantly turned to do the boss's bidding. Meanwhile, Mac was thoroughly upset. He planned to be at the Midtown Hotel at noon to see if Sam would actually show up. But just as he was about to leave the office, his boss called and demanded an analysis of the company's trading operations for the previous month. While the meeting was going on, lunch was brought to the manager, and by the time the meeting ended, it was already too late. Returning to his desk, he thought about calling Sam, but quickly dismissed the thought. What will it give? She will either deny everything or give me some explanation that I cannot easily verify. And if she cheats on me, then confronting her will make her even more cautious. Damn, what should I do now? This is killing me. I can't just sit here and pretend nothing is happening. Finally, in desperation, he picked up the phone and called Willow. "Oh, Mac, good to hear from you. How are you?" "Not too good, to be honest." "Willow, could you tell me what my wife did?" She hesitated, and then he heard tears in her voice. "Oh, Mac, you know how dear you both are to me. Please don't make me say anything." Mac sat back in his chair in shock, knowing full well what her refusal meant. At the same time, he realized how painful the situation must be for Willow. "It's okay. You don't need to tell me. I know how devoted you are to Sam. I'm just sorry you found yourself in the middle of this mess. Thank you for your understanding, Mac. And Mac, I've always been loyal to you too." He hung up and sat there, rubbing his forehead with his fingers. So what now? I still don't know what exactly is going on. In the end, he decided to work late that evening to avoid running into Sam. Damn, I need something serious to stand up to her. I have to think of something. The next day at work, Sam was meeting with a client when she heard her smartphone emit the telltale tone of an incoming message. She waited impatiently until the end of the meeting and, as soon as the client left, she took out her phone. The message, as she had hoped, was from Mr. Nice Guy. "Last day was incredible. I want to meet you again, this time for one night. I promise you an unforgettable experience." Having finished reading the note, Sam began to tremble with excitement. She quickly checked her calendar, then typed out a response with impatient fingers. "Let's try it on Friday. I'll see what I can do and let you know." When she saw the thumbs up emoji appear, she immediately called Mac. "Look, honey, I hope we don't have any plans for the weekend. Looks like I'll have to drive to Albany on Friday night to meet with a potential client on Saturday morning. This is all very secret. I can't say his name, but someone out there is considering running for governor. In any case, he wants to meet at an odd time so that others don't find out. I'll just take the Amtrak train at 5:45 on Friday night and get home late Saturday night." In his heightened anxiety, Mac was immediately suspicious of Sam's sudden and mysterious meeting, but could not come up with any reasonable objections. "But when she returns, we will sit down and discuss everything. I can't live like this anymore." When Sam hung up the phone with a triumphant smile, she looked up and saw Willow looking at her from the doorway. "You don't have any meetings in Albany. What's going on, Sam?" she demanded angrily. Sam flinched for a moment at Willow's tone, then shrugged. "You're right. I don't have any meetings. I just need a chance to spend some more time with this guy." She called her friend closer. "There's something about him that turns me on in a way I've never experienced. I just want one more long, uninterrupted chance to experience this with him. Then it will all be over, and everything will return to normal. Can you understand this?" "No, I cannot. This isn't like you, Sam." Sam shook her head irritably. "Listen, for me, this is a special pleasure, like an extra portion of dessert. Sometimes, everyone needs to pamper themselves. You should try it yourself." Willow looked at her friend incredulously. Then she turned and left without saying a word. Sam rolled her eyes, then picked up her smartphone again and typed another message. "Everything is ready. I'll leave tomorrow after work. Hubby doesn't expect me home until noon on Saturday." A few moments later, the revengestory signal sounded again. "Great. I'll send a car for you at 6:1 at your office. Wear something unforgettable." Sam shuddered again. It was a tense Thursday night at McGraw's apartment. Mac asked her about the trip to Albany, but Sam stubbornly continued to talk about the mysterious politician. "Why are you interrogating me like that?" she demanded. "You know how secretive politicians can be. Don't be so nosy." Mac ground his teeth in frustration. "If I ask her about the iRendezvous app on her phone, she'll no doubt come up with some explanation that I can't refute. I can't broach the subject with Willow because Willow never told me anything, and Sam will just deny everything. I think I'll have to hire a detective to try to get to the bottom of this." He fell into sullen silence, and Sam, grateful for the respite, kept her distance. The next morning, Sam packed an overnight bag to take to work. She was careful not to let Mac see what she put in there and kept the bag with her until it was time to leave for work. Willow was watching the door from the office lobby, and when Sam enters carrying her overnight bag, Willow hurried after her. "Please, Sam, don't do this. Mac loves you. He doesn't deserve to be treated this way. Look, if you back off now, I'm sure you can repair the damage done to your marriage. Even if Mac finds out, at least you can tell him it was just a one-time mistake. Please, Sam, please." Sam frowned in irritation. "We've already had this conversation, Willow. I'm just having a little adventure. I'm going to go have fun, and I'm not going to hurt anyone. Besides, after this weekend, it will all be over. I'll go back to Mac and be the most loving wife in the world. You'll see. Now leave me alone and let me finish my job." Willow stood silently and looked at her friend. She then turned and walked back to her booth, wiping away a tear. Late that evening, Sam grabbed her overnight bag and went to the women's restroom. Making sure that no one else was there, she quickly took off her business suit and underwear and put on the dress she had bought especially for this adventure. It was black, form-fitting, with a zipper running down the front, from the bust to the short hem. The obvious fact that she wasn't wearing any bra or panties made it the sluttiest outfit she'd ever worn. "This is perfect," she triumphed. As she walked back to her office, she passed Willow, who gasped at the sight of her friend's transformation. Sam grinned at her. Willow turned on her heel and hurried back to her office, tears filling her eyes again. She sat at her desk for several long minutes, conflict clearly visible on her face. Finally, she sighed heavily and picked up the phone to call Mac. When he answered, she began to sob. "Willow, what happened? Are you okay?" "Oh God, Mac, I can't believe I'm doing this, but she left me no choice. It's Sam. She's not going to Albany this afternoon. She's leaving to meet her lover." With these words, she began to sob again. "Bitch," Mac cursed. "Stay where you are. I'm already on my way there. Sam and I will figure it out one way or another." He hung up and quickly headed down the street to hail a taxi. But Friday afternoon, New York City traffic was even worse than usual, and the taxi was stuck in traffic a few blocks from Sam's office. Swearing, Mac got out of the car, threw a bill to the taxi driver, and started to run. When he finally reached Sam's building, he noticed Willow standing on the sidewalk. She grabbed his hand. "She just got in that car!" she shouted, pointing at a black Lincoln Town car pulling away from the curb. Cursing, Mac looked around and noticed another taxi that had just dropped off its passenger. He jumped into the open door and urgently ordered the taxi driver to follow the Lincoln. "Are you some kind of cop?" The taxi driver asked warily. Mac took a $100 bill from his wallet and stuck it into the money slot in the kegi. "No, but I am a person who is willing to pay well for a taxi that will help me." The taxi driver looked at the bill and turned back to Mac. "Good enough for me, mister. Buckle up." But before he could pull away from the curb, another door swung open and Willow flew inside. "What are you doing?" Mac asked incredulously. "I don't know, Mac, but I have to go with you." The taxi driver turned around in despair. "Well, so what? Should I go or stay?" Mac looked at Willow helplessly. "Go!" he shouted, and the taxi disappeared into the traffic jam. When Sam walked out of the lobby, she immediately noticed a town car pulled up to the side of the road. The driver, in uniform and cap, quickly got out of the car and politely opened the back door for her. Wow, he does everything well. She settled into the leather seat, and they drove in silence until they passed the first traffic light. The driver suddenly took off his cap and turned to her. "My God, it's you!" she exclaimed in amazement as Mr. Nice Guy smiled back at her, pleased with his little surprise. "It's amazing," she exclaimed. "You're just full of surprises." He chuckled and turned to continue driving when a horn sounded behind them. "Where are we going?" she asked after a few minutes. "We're heading to my place on Long Island," he said, looking at her in the mirror. "Just sit back and enjoy the ride. Oh, and to help you with this, I even prepared a Manhattan for you. You will find it in the refrigerator." Delighted, Sam enjoyed a cocktail and sat back, watching the traffic lights flow by. By the time they passed the Triborough Bridge, she found herself beginning to feel drowsy and soon fell asleep. The driver looked back at her in the rearview mirror and smiled. The taxi with Mac and Willow followed the Lincoln with great difficulty. Several times they almost caught up with them at a traffic light, but the taxi driver passed the intersection late, earning angry horns from other cars. As the taxi drove through the darkening streets, Willow told Mac everything that had happened. "I tried to talk her out of it," she told him apologetically, "but she just wouldn't listen." Then a worried expression appeared on the slender girl's face. "What are you going to do if we catch up with them, Mac?" He smiled darkly at her. "Don't worry, Willow. I'm not going to shoot anyone. What I want to do is catch them together, so there is no denial. If I'm lucky, I might even be able to take some candid photos with my phone." Suddenly, the taxi turned off the highway, and Mac looked around in confusion. "Where are we?" "We're in Queens," the driver told him. "The Lincoln is still ahead, but it's off the main road, and I have no idea where they're going." The yellow taxi drove through the residential streets, trying to stay close enough to follow the big Lincoln, but not so close that they would be noticed. Suddenly, up ahead, they saw the town car turn sharply off the street and into the driveway of a large house-like structure. As the taxi pulled up and passed the entrance, they saw Lincoln's headlights turn over the side wall of the building and disappear behind them. The taxi driver stopped on the side of the road. "Okay, buddy. Looks like it's the end of the line." After paying for the fare, Mac looked around. "What kind of place is it?" The taxi driver pointed to an unlit sign with a Gothic inscription. Rego Park Funeral Home. "It looks like your wife is having an affair with the funeral home director." "Anyway, that's all I can do. Now you're on your own." "Listen," Mac asked him, "how about leaving the meter on and waiting for us? We don't plan to stay here long, and it will probably be difficult to find another car at this time of day. I'll add another $100 if you stay." The taxi driver shook his head. "Sorry, it's not worth it. I heard what you were saying, and I don't want to get involved in a marital dispute that could end badly." Mac tried to persuade him to stay, but he was adamant, and they reluctantly got out of the taxi. "What do we do now?" asked Willow. Mac looked around the building skeptically. "I don't see any lights on here. Let's go around the back and see if we can spot anything." As they walked around the building, trying not to make any noise, Willow whispered, "This is so strange. Why would they come to such a place?" "I'll be damned if I know," Mac agreed. "Quite a strange place for a date in the hayloft." The two of them carefully made their way in the darkness. Samantha was awakened by a low temperature. Not only was the air cold, but the bed she was lying on was hard and felt like ice. Grumbling, she tried to sit up, but found herself securely strapped to an aluminum examination table, without sheets or pads. Her dress had disappeared, and she was completely naked. Raising her head, she saw her lover at the far end of the room. "Hey, what's going on? Free me!" He turned to look at her. "Oh, you're finally awake. I was afraid I made your Manhattan too strong and you'd miss out on all the fun. That may be your idea of fun, but it's not mine. Now set me free." The dark-haired man shook his head disapprovingly. "You are the same as all the other unfaithful wives. You love to get around behind your husband's back, but when things don't go your way, you want things to go back to normal. I'm sorry, but that doesn't happen." Fear ran through her, but she was determined not to show it. "Let me free myself, and we can go to your bedroom. I'll be the best little slut you've ever seen." He ignored her. "That's exactly what my wife was like. When I caught her cheating, she wanted everything to go back to how it was before. But I knew that things would never be the same again. That's why I had to kill her." Sam gasped. "And when she was gone, I found more women who were just as willing to cheat on their husbands. I had no choice but to punish them too. There are so many of them. You will become the 8th. Horrified, Sam began to cry. "Please, if you let me go, I promise I won't tell anyone. Just let me go and I'll forget this even happened. I'm afraid I can't do that, my dear Miss Unforgettable. It'll ruin all the fun for me. But my husband will look for me. He will call the police. They will find you and all your victims and lock you up forever. Now you're getting bored. First of all, your husband thinks you're in Albany. He won't even start looking for you until tomorrow evening. And even when he realizes you're not upstate, he'll never find you, I assure you. My job allows me to hide my secrets." "But I thought you said you worked in the future." He laughed again. "It was just my little joke. When you say you're a funeral director, you don't seem to attract many women. But in a sense, I told the truth, because the funeral service is everyone's future. Of course, people like you don't have a very long future when they meet me." As he spoke, she saw him putting on a disposable biohazard suit. "What are you doing?" she asked fearfully. "I'm afraid that in a minute everything will become terribly dirty." Mac and Willow noticed light coming from the basement windows and carefully made their way through a row of bushes planted near the building. When they got close enough to look through the window, Mac gasped loudly when he saw Sam tied up on the examination table. "What kind of perverted sex is she into?" he asked in amazement. "No wonder I couldn't satisfy her." He took out his phone and started taking pictures. At that moment, Willow grabbed his hand and pointed to the other side of the room. "Look, over there. This must be the man she was dating." Mac turned his head and looked at Willow in confusion. "Why is he wearing this protective suit if they are going to have sex? Is there something wrong?" At that moment, the man picked up a saw. Willow screamed in horror. "He's not going to have sex with her. He's going to kill her." Mac looked around desperately and noticed a half-filled trash can leaning against the wall. "Move away, Willow," he shouted. He then grabbed a trash can, swung it, and smashed it against the basement window. Knocking out shards of glass, he made his way through the broken window frame. But as he tried to climb down, a piece of glass caught on his jacket, causing him to fall to the floor and sprain his ankle. He lay awkwardly, holding his injured ankle and cursing. "Who are you?" The funeral director cried out in surprise. "I'm her husband," Mac shouted back from the floor. The man laughed. "Then get out of here. I'm doing you a favor by ridding you of this traitor. She may be a traitor, but she is still my wife. Now get away from her." The man grinned contemptuously. "You must be one of those perverts who likes to watch his wife having fun with other men. Looks like I'll have to get rid of you too." "No!" a female voice shouted, and Willow went down into the basement with a light jump. "Don't go near him!" she shouted, rushing to get between Mac and the man with the bone saw. In desperation, Willow kicked, hitting the maniac in the kneecap. Losing his balance, he sprawled awkwardly on the floor, his throat caught on an aching bone saw. For a moment, everyone stared at this scene in stunned silence. Mac then shouted, "Quickly, Willow, call the police! This is not necessary!" A voice came from the window, and raising their heads, they saw a taxi driver looking into the room. He shrugged. "Hey, I couldn't leave without finding out how it all ended. In any case, I already called the police. They should be here any minute." At that moment, the howl of sirens came through the broken window. "And that's pretty much all I know about what happened," Mac told the police detective. "You will have to talk to my wife to find out the rest of the details. Tell me, where is she?" "We took her to the hospital so they could check her just in case. The policewoman who went with her called recently. They found a lot of rohypnol in her blood, so they want to keep her overnight just to make sure she's okay." The husband nodded. "So, who was this maniac anyway?" "He was on our list of suspects for a long time because his name came up in connection with some other wives who disappeared. But we never followed him because we never found any bodies. In fact, they are still listed as missing in our records. But now it looks like we'll have to get a court order to exhume some of the graves." He shook his head. "Your wife told us that she was supposed to be victim number 8. I'm afraid we'll have to do a lot of digging." Mac winced at the thought, then turned to the detective. "If there are no more questions, can I go?" "Certainly. I think you've given us everything we need. We'll call you if anything else comes up." As Mac was leaving the interrogation room, he spotted Willow in the hallway. "Hey, wait!" he shouted, hurrying towards her. She reluctantly stopped, lowering her eyes. "Where are you going?" he asked. She shrugged. "I was hoping to sneak away before you finished." "Why did you want to avoid me? I destroyed your marriage. Moreover, I betrayed my best friend. I thought that you probably never wanted to see me again." He lifted her face to look into her eyes. "You know that you probably saved my life there in the morgue. I was just clumsy as always. It was just an accident." He ignored her. "You called me to warn me about Sam. I know, and after everything she did for me, I will never forgive myself for this." He took her by the shoulders. "She took advantage of your friendship, Willow. All these years she's treated you like dirt, and you know it. I could never understand why you put up with it, at least until tonight. You were faithful not to her, but to me. You've been like this all these years, and I didn't even notice it. You're in love with me, aren't you?" She turned away, tears running down her cheeks. He turned her back to face him. "You love, don't you? You chose her, not me. I had to respect that. I could not." He hugged her tightly, cutting off her sentence. After a long minute, he pulled her away to arm's length. "I can't tell you these words right now because it's too early. I have a lot to overcome, a lot of anger to deal with. But you stayed with me for so long. Do you think you can last with me a little longer?" She looked at him with shining eyes. "You don't even have to ask." Early the next morning, Willow knocked on the hospital room door, and upon hearing, "Come in," she walked in and saw Sam standing next to the bed. She was wearing the same dress she had worn when she came down to meet the town car. Instantly, both women burst into tears and hugged each other. "I was sure he would kill you," Willow sobbed. "He would have been killed if you hadn't shown up on time. You were so brave to come for me." Sam lowered her eyes in shame. "I should have listened to you. You were right about everything." Then she smiled. "But don't worry, I'm going to make it up to you. As soon as I return to work, I will make sure that you get a promotion and a big raise. It's the least I can do for you after everything you've done for me." At that moment, there was another knock and Mac stuck his head in the door. "Here he is!" Sam exclaimed. "My knight in shining armor!" She rushed to her husband and hugged his neck. "I treated you so badly, but you came to my aid when I needed you most." "I'll never forget this, Mac. I swear I'm going to spend the rest of my life expressing my gratitude to you, both of you." Mac looked at her without expression. "You can start by getting rid of the iRendezvous app on your smartphone." "What? Oh, of course, of course. I never want to see that damn thing again." She pulled away and picked up her overnight bag. "Can we go?" The three of them silently descended the hospital elevator and went outside. The husband walked up to the waiting taxi and opened the door for her. Sam slid inside and then looked fearfully at her husband, who had closed the door behind her. Rolling down the window, she asked, "Wait, aren't you going?" Mac shook his head. "No, I'm going home. But that's where I'm going." He shook his head. "You have a new home now. I rented you one of those extended stay places near LaGuardia. I even paid for the first month. This should give you time to decide what you want to do and where to go. But I don't want to live there. I want to go home. You no longer have this opportunity. You made your choice when you met your lover. But you saved me from him. That means you still love me. This doesn't mean I want to be married to you." The wife turned her tear-stained face to Willow. "I don't want to hang around in Queens. Can I stay with you for a while until Mac and I sort things out?" "I don't think so, Sam. But we will work together. It will be as great as it was back in college. And don't forget about your promotion and salary increase. First thing Monday morning, I will submit my resignation from the agency. Headhunters from other PR agencies have been contacting me for quite some time. I decided it would be best if I accepted one of their offers." "Sorry, ma'am," the taxi driver interrupted, "but if I don't leave right now, I'll be fined." With these words, he drove away from the side of the road. Heartbroken, Sam turned to look behind her and saw the two walking away holding hands. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one.